Hello, Mystics, and welcome to the Secrets of Sam and Colby's Hell Month 2025. I'm Pythian Priestess, and I am answering the questions that you left me on my social media. So this year, I went to the new Conjuring House with Sam and Colby, and it was wild. You all have a lot of questions for me. So let's start with the first one from mind_4040. How does it feel after doing these rituals? Do you, Sam and Colby, have things happen after these big moments? How do you feel about them recording these big moments for the viewers? And what do you think we should do to protect ourselves as viewers when watching these heavy videos? Wow, there is so much to go through here. So let's start with the first one. How does it feel after doing these rituals? I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like I feel so terrible after doing these because I am using so much energy. I know when you guys watch me use and manage the spirit board that it looks like I'm just standing there with my knife, but I'm doing a lot. I am maintaining an entire army of spirits around me for protection while simultaneously making sure the spirit we're talking to is being good. Because if it's not good, that means I have to do something called the greater curse. But I can be honest with you, I feel terrible. I get a migraine afterwards because we shoot till 4 in the morning. We usually get back to the hotel like at 5, and then we leave almost immediately. There is no downtime. So on the plane ride back to LA, like, I'm have my hoodie on in the airport like this, like, it hurts, and I don't mind it because I know what I'm doing is giving the greater community an understanding of magic, but it does take a lot out of me, especially when doing the spirit board. That's a very big operation that traditionally is done with multiple magicians, and it's just me. So I expend most of my energy. So I'm like on one tiny little percent at the end of all of it. But I have nothing but gratitude. And I'm so grateful that I do get to do these magical operations with Sam and Colby. They're a lot of fun. Do Sam and Colby have things happen after these big moments? I'm going to say no, not that they've ever told me, but I also cleanse everyone afterwards. That's recorded, but it usually doesn't make it into the final video, mostly for time purposes. But I do take about 10 minutes and I cleanse everybody off. I remove any energies that have attached themselves. I make sure that their aura is clean and clear, and I give them some protection as well. So usually nothing big happens afterwards. I would not be doing my job correctly if it did. How do I feel about them recording these big moments for viewers? Honestly, it's a little bit scary because the occult means hidden, and these practices have been hidden for a very long time for multiple different reasons. And in the Conjuring video, the new Conjuring House, we did something a little bit different. I didn't have them blur certain things. So you see me doing some magical operations that look dumb. I'll be honest, they look kind of stupid if you don't know what's going on. So you see me creating this thing, this circle, and I'm calling in energy. And if you're just looking at me like, what on earth is she doing? She's just waving her hands around. I get it. It looks stupid, but it's a very real magical operation. And I think a lot of people have this idea that magic is going to be boom, bam, Harry Potter. It's usually not like that. Usually it's me drawing shapes in the air and doing kind of weird chants and stuff like that. So it's kind of intimidating because I know I see the hate comments. I see people being like, look at this girl. This is so fake. She's so dumb. She doesn't really know what she's doing. I can't prove magic to you. That's not my job to prove magic. My job is to help Sam and Colby investigate. So it's a little nerve wracking, but I also see the major community of the explorers who really value what they're seeing and understand that there's something special that they might not understand. So it's a mixed bag, I guess. So the last part to this question is, what should you be doing as a viewer to protect yourselves from these heavy energies? I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. And I think it's true that there is some element of energy that can come through the recording, but it's not going to be like a whole attachment. It's not going to be a demon or anything like that. but sure, you can get maybe some residual energy. I watch horror movies all the time and particularly love Korean horror. If you have any recommendations, please drop them below for me. So I know what it feels like to carry that fear after watching something. I don't get that anymore because I have so much confidence in myself and I know that I am divinely protected. But a lot of you have fear when you watch these Sam and Colby videos, and you probably like it to some extent. But if you do want to protect yourself, I'd recommend asking your angels or your guardian spirits to hold off any energy that may come through the screen. Again, I think it's very minimal energy at that point. Like it's not going to be, like I said, a whole attachment. It's going to be like minor stuff, but it can still make you feel uncomfortable. I also recommend eating something salty afterwards. Salt is a purifying agent, it's a mineral that cleanses. So, putting a little bit of salt on the tongue can be really beneficial. The next question I'm going to answer is from Anastasia. Can you talk about what you said in the Sam and Colby video that demons don't want your soul? I'm really curious what they want. Wow, this is such a great question and it's a loaded one. So, we're going to have to do levels to really get into this, okay? So, let's start with the Bible itself. The Old Testament has a very limited usage of the word demon, but nowhere in the Old Testament does it actually say that demons are working to claim human souls for eternal damnation. That actually comes from folklore. So if you look at the New Testament, demons are portrayed as evil spirits or agents of affliction, which cause harm to the body, usually through vices like addiction, for example. We're going to move way up into the medieval and Renaissance era, and that's where this motif or a metaphor of making a pact with the devil comes in. And I'm going to highlight one of the most popular, which is known as the Faustian bargain. So, in these tales, humans authorize some kind of contract with a spirit, a demon, and it's in exchange for something like knowledge, power, or wealth. And this is to show the loss of spirituality because the person is trading their spiritual nature, your soul, for something material, a possession of wealth or pleasure, for example. So, in the Faust legend, which has had many iterations, by the way, the idea is this semi legendary figure, Dr. Faust, makes a deal with a demon known as Mistopheles to gain some kind of ultimate knowledge or power. Thus, he must surrender his soul. This is where the idea that the soul is the ultimate price of a bargain, but it's not like the actual soul. It's really about your authority and your agency. So now we're going to dive into my belief system and how I understand this to work. So I'm going to be pulling from one of my mentors, Lon Milo Duquette's book, Low Magic. And I first want to focus on the subtitle of that book, which is It's All in Your Head. You just have no idea how big your head is. So while I do believe that there are some actual spirits in the macrocosm, I think a lot of the time when people are dealing with demonic entities, it's your microcosm or within your aura or your head. I am a firm believer that magic is something called psychospiritual, meaning it's a combination of psychology and spirituality because your brain is the operating system through which magic works. So you have to be able to have contact with the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the unconscious mind. But that unconscious mind has some pretty scary stuff in it. What Lon Milo Duquette says, when you are evoking an external demon, you're actually bringing out the worst part of yourself. This is where the vices live, right? So we have rage, gluttony, self sabotage, all of these unbalanced forces that were repressed into the unconscious mind. In this model, according to Lon Milo Duquette, is that the demon actually wants to be acknowledged. It needs to have structure so it can be integrated into your body, into your mindset. There's this idea that holy is like angels and halos. But if we actually break that word down, it should be holy, meaning a combination of light and dark. Because you are not all light nor are you all dark. You are a combination of both. While editing this video, I decided I wanted to redo this section because I wasn't happy with the way that I explained demons. So, to understand where demons come from, you have to go outside of Christianity. You need to go into Hermetic thought, which goes all the way back into ancient Mesopotamia. But for the purposes of today, we're going to be going to ancient Greece. So, in Hermetic thought, the idea is that the universe is structured by intellect or the divine mind. And there's no mistakes that come from this. It's all perfectly designed. So, the term daimon comes in the ancient Greek. Daimon etymologically means to divide, distribute, or allot. So in Plato's writings like the Symposium, Plutarch on the Daemon of Socrates, we find that the word takes on a new meaning, which is that the daimons are messengers, catalysts, or movers between the different realms. So there's the Empyrean, which is the celestial realm or what you call heaven. There's the earthly realm. And then there's the subterranean realm or the infernal realm. The daimon could be in any one of those categories, and it wasn't a moral issue. It wasn't good versus evil. If you want to understand the true nature of a demon or a daimon, we have to get away from black versus white, good versus evil. When demonology was later expounded upon, especially during like the Neoplatonist era and then the Christian writers like St. Augustine, we start to see the shift, but we'll get to there when we get there. We're staying in Hermeticism for right now. Lower intelligences govern the physical realm that you and I are in, but they are not trying to steal souls. What they're doing is upholding the physical universe. That's part of it. So these spirits of the subterranean realm deal with decay. They deal with dissolving. They deal with enforcing consequences, or they're the building blocks of the material universe. These daimons also stir up emotions. They generate libido and impulses, and they maintain the structure of the universal law through crystallization. They can also bind souls to matter. If we didn't have these spirits, it would be very difficult, if not impossible, for a soul to incarnate into a body. Something needs to uphold and create the body. Now we're going to dive into the idea of where demons come to test you. The point of having chaos is that chaos is needed to create friction for the soul to develop. The soul needs tests. And this comes from the Corpus Hermeticum and Augustine's writings, like City of God. And I'm not going to pretend I can pronounce that other book. I've only read the word, not actually heard it. So, what St. Augustine did that was really important for the rest of history is decide that evil is the absence of good. This is the beginning of Christian theology, the spiritual battle of good versus evil. So, what Augustine does is explain that the fallen angels are here to reveal choices and trials to people because it's going to help them refine their soul. It's going to help you ascend into higher levels of conscious awareness, or in his language, help you ascend into the heavens and earn a place with the seat of God. So demons are necessary to create this disorder, but they're not evil. It's not evil as a substance or an independent force. It's the necessary friction in order to move forward. The metaphor that I like to use is the metaphor of an arrow. In order to shoot the arrow forward, you have to pull it back. So we can see here that by the tests or the struggles that the demon presents to different people is a test of will. And if this is used correctly, the resistance, it can shoot the arrow into the target, ideally the bullseye, which in Augustine's case would be heaven or a higher state of consciousness, at least. What demons do is test your willpower or your sovereignty. And that means that they are going to push you, they're going to make things uncomfortable or difficult because they demand discipline for you to overcome. This is just three of them. That's in like a broad category, like ignorance, passion, and error, which you can later break down into the 7 vices. And what do you need to do to have virtue is overcome the vices, which demands discipline. So demons are a catalyst for the discovery of your inner divine. By overcoming, it doesn't mean we push it down or ignore it or cast it away. As we move into the 20th century with the emergence of psychology, Dr. Freud and Carl Jung really showed how demons live within us. They are part of our brain. They are the shadow aspect of our consciousness. So they exist inside of us, which lines up with Aleister Crowley's introduction to the Lesser Key of Solomon, which is that the demons are a part of the brain. They represent different aspects of the human mind. Yes, I think that there are spirits that are existing outside of humans who keep the universe running and in order. And then there are the personal demons, which are within us, as well as sometimes those come in physical form if you conjure them or something like that. And sometimes they come through other ways to this plane of existence. But I don't think that the demons ultimately want your soul. Their purpose to hurt you is so you can be pulled back like the arrow to ascend. It's not to drag you down. They are the intermediary, the friction, so you can do that. So it's not as easy as saying that demons just want to take your soul. That later gets rolled into the Faustian bargain and deal with the devil motif that comes up from the medieval period into the Renaissance. It's a long history of how these forces have been shaped. And of course, Hollywood. Hollywood does depict things that have happened. There are cases of demons manifesting or possessing people, throwing them across rooms, creating foul smells. And that's part of the decay and the dissolution. That's just a part of our universe. And just a reminder, as we saw in Hermeticism, all is divine, all is mental, all is mind. And we now see that connection, or at least I hope you do. I did my best. This is where you get to make choices in this universe. And when the demon takes your will, that's where addiction comes in. I am addicted. I feel like I don't have a choice anymore. So the demon energy is where they mirror back your weaknesses. This is where you are undeveloped and you're unaligned. You're not whole. This is all very psychological. I don't ascribe to the Christian paradigm of the demons wanting to hinder divine order. I think that's not true at all. I think demons are a part of the divine order. And I don't think that demons want to degrade humans. They are just part of your natural ecosystem in your mind. And so if you give into that, if you give away your will, then that's where you get into trouble. Not so sexy, I guess, not as scary and ethereal, but that is what I think. Lotus Flower wants to know why the protection tablets were on paper and not metal alloy. Because I don't have $3,000 to make them. So what you all were looking at actually comes from this book called Solomonic Pentacles, and it is the 4th pentacle of the moon. I'll show it to you now. And it's a protection pentacle. So we'll break down what all these different things mean. So the moon is a lunar aspect or the unconscious aspect. So the purpose of this pentacle is to protect the mind, body, and soul from any other outside force. We want to protect ourselves from evil sorcery, from any kind of manipulation. And then you have the name Eheye Asher Eheye, which roughly translates to I am that I am. And then when you dive down to that even deeper, it is I exist because I am existence. The second line from the bottom is an angelic name that protects you from the plots of others and also allows the revealing of secrets, which I thought was so important going into the new Conjuring House because I knew that there was something fishy going on there. This angel's name is Yael, Yael, Yahel, and it literally means to shine. And then there is another angel here, which is Sophiel, which, according to the author here, most likely translates to endings of God. And then you will notice that there are some Latin inscriptions around the outside of the pentacle, which translate to, let them be confounded who persecute me, and let me not be confounded. Let them fear and not I. I thought this was a really important protection symbol to have because there is a lot of mischievous energy inside of that conjuring house. That egregor can become whatever you want it to be. If you're interested in purchasing this book, you can go to my TikTok shop or my Amazon links. I really love this book. So some people want to know, like, will it still work on paper? Yeah, of course it will still work on paper. It might not be as strong because I didn't have a metal alloy, because I didn't put it through the intense ritual that requires, but the energy is still there. So was it the best option? Maybe not, but it definitely worked. Well, let's be real, you guys. They gave the protection away anyway. So a couple of people did ask about that. Was I mad that they gave their protection away? I was very shocked. I was like, are you guys serious right now? And we had a conversation about what we actually offer spirits. And the answer is water. You don't want to give spirits alcohol usually because it's fire water and it can make them kind of spicy and even maybe mischievous. Water is always a good offering. And of course, I don't expect the guys to know this because they don't practice magic. I did take them back. They cut this part out for like the time in the video, but I did like go downstairs and I took all of them and I reconsecrated them and they did have them for the rest of the video. And then I took my necklace back. So a lot of people actually have questions about this necklace. I will show you and explain to you why this necklace is protective for me. I'm going to show you guys the necklace and don't judge me because it has wax on it from a ritual, okay? I've had this necklace for about 5 years and it has had many iterations written on it, but currently it has the hieroglyphs of my goddess Isis or the Egyptian Osset. This Ankh has been through so many rituals with me and it holds her power. Now, a lot of people don't understand that the Ankh has many meanings. It is the key to the afterlife, but it's also a symbol of protection, which is why I always wear it when I'm with Sam and Colby. I don't know where you can buy one like this. I'll look around and see if there are any online. This one was gifted to me by the secret society that I'm in, and that is all I can say about that. The next question that we have is from Natalie. She wants to know how egregores work. If we all decided not to think or talk about it for a long time, would it disappear or leave? And then there was a follow-up question by Zoe Jonkman 13. Does the egregore change if many people think differently about it? For example, if we now know that it is not a real daemon, will it change its energy or behavior? So let's first talk about how egregores work. So your thoughts actually have weight to them. It's very, very small, but it does have a weight and they also have a charge. So when lots of thoughts come together, they create an entity. A great way to describe this is culture. A really good example of this is actually kind of negative. So let's talk about like cults and groupthink. So when you have a group of people who are under a thought form or an egregore, let's talk about Jonestown, for example. All of those people were being controlled by fear. This fear that was being created. There was a energy that's hovering over everybody that keeps them in the cult. This comes from the manipulation of Jim Jones. This comes from the culture of if you leave, like you're a bad person. And this is a great example of how people's thoughts come together to create like a crystallized energy system. Let's put it this way. When I encountered an egregore when filming my show Haunted America, I did not respect it. I was like, this is just a bunch of human thoughts. It's not that smart. It's not a big deal. And it was my mistake to think that because we almost died because of that egregore. You will be able to watch that episode coming out. You can subscribe to the playlist Exploring Haunted America on my YouTube channel. And the egregore that was in this house, in the new Conjuring House, could transform into whatever you want it to be. That is explicitly what is said through the Estes method with Colby. So, if we decided not to think or talk about it for a long time, would it disappear or leave? Yes, it would. It would be lessened because it's no longer being fed the energy source. However, I don't think that's going to happen. With the Conjuring Last Rites movie coming out, with the Warrens' legacy in general, I don't think that egregore is going anywhere anytime soon. The next question is, can it change its energy or behavior? Yes, I think so. I think that that's what it said. Whatever you want it to be. That's very, very clear. If you're interested on egregores and thought forms, I have 2 book recommendations for you. And if you don't want to read books, I've also posted the Theosophy Society's lecture on thought forms that you can find on YouTube. So the first book is called Thought Forms by Annie Besant. It's recently been reprinted. It has amazing pictures, drawings. I love this book so much. I use it to teach. The next book I'm going to recommend is called Egregores, The Occult Entities Which Watch Over Humanity by Mark Stavish. He did a lot of research going through ancient Greece, ancient Rome, Tibetan Buddhism, Islam, as well as Aleister Crowley and Kenneth Grant. I know you're all been waiting for this one. Let's explain how a spirit board session works. I don't use the term Ouija because it's not a Ouija board. I've created my own board. So let's go through it. So here it is. Here's the spirit board. It's all wrapped up right now. I created this based off of a book called Aleister Crowley and the Ouija Board by Edward J. Cornelius. Now, that book is not a step-by-step manual. You really have to read between the lines. So I was able to pull that information. I was able to figure out a couple of things. So the first thing is the board, as you look at it, it's not like the boards that you see in stores. For a good reason. This board is black, representing the unconscious mind. The letters and numbers represent consciousness because language comes from the conscious or prefrontal cortex. Let's look at the back of the board. You guys have seen this in other Sam and Colby videos. They didn't feature it on this one. So this is Belthor. He is an Olympic spirit used to expand the human mind because I need Sam and Colby to go into a mild trance state in order for this board to work. And then we have the 4 archangels protecting the board. This is their name in Hebrew. And then here is their sigil. Next, we're going to look at the planchette. I made this planchette by hand. It's got little feet. These feet are super cute. Okay, so this is the name of an archangel around the triangle. And then here, this is not glass. This is not plastic. This is a pure crystal. This is clear quartz, and it's very important that it is quartz. This is where the spirit sits when we're doing the session. I noticed people are like saying like, oh, you didn't say goodbye and stuff on the board. You have to remember that Sam and Colby videos are edited for time. So there's a lot of stuff that went down that you guys didn't see. It doesn't mean it didn't happen, okay? Here you see, this is the whole procedure I've written out. I wrote this myself. There's mistakes. There's all kinds of stuff here because this has been a lot of trial and error. And that's what magic is. Magic is very much like science. You experiment. You figure out what works and what doesn't work. So this invocation that I have here is a combination of stuff that comes from Solomonic magic mixed in with my goddess. So I'm going to read it for you, but you will understand why Patrick can't lie. And that was definitely the most asked question. Is it true that Patrick can't lie? So let me read you this invocation. Hail to thee, O great goddess Isis. Hail to the mother of Horus. I come as your humble priestess. Bless me, O great queen. Allow me to see through the blue haze that veils you. Bestow upon me the gift of your power so I may command spirits. I tremble at your presence, O Holy One. Isis, Queen of Heaven, she who rules over the heavens and the earth. I ask you to be with me now. I drive back disaster and stand before your throne. I am power. I am love. I am eternity. In perfect love and perfect trust, I open my psyche as a pathway to you. Isis is all things, and all things are Isis. Hear me, O Lady Isis, O thou who art matter manifest, goddess of 10,000 names. I invoke thee into my soul. Hail to thee, Isis, mistress of the whole land. Hear my prayer. Come thou forth and imbue me with your power. Make all spirits subject unto me, so that everything of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land or in of whirling air or rushing fire, every spell and scourge of goddess may be obedient unto me. I call forth, insert spirit name into the triangle of Solomon. I welcome you, and by the powers of Isis and Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, I bind thee and command thee, thou remain affably and come in a comely form into this triangle. You will tell no lies and play no tricks, or I will deprive thee of thine office. And you will not depart without my license until thou hast duly and faithfully performed my will without falsity. In the divine name of Isis and Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, so mote it be. So how do I make this protective to make sure nobody gets hurt? I'm going to hop into Canva so I can actually make you a whole diagram to explain it. Okay, so here is our setup. So we have the board with me, Sam, and Colby, and these circles represent the circle of salt. And the salt is a mineral of purification. And it also keeps stuff from coming into the circle, but it also means we can't leave it. So it's a layer of protection. When I am conducting the board, I specifically make sure that the spirit has its own altar space. And that's what this triangle over here is. Before I even call in Patrick, I do a lot of work beforehand. I'm going to call in the four archangels. We call in angels to protect us from all sides. So we will have an angel here looking out on the south. We have an angel over here in the west. We will have an angel behind me. And then we have another angel who is looking out on the east. So we are surrounded by angels. Now, this is all invisible. Of course, you can't see this, but this is what I am doing. So we do all of that, and I invoke the goddess. She is then within me behind Sam and Colby. That doesn't mean I like lose consciousness or anything like that. It just means that I am in her form. So invoking means you bring that energy into you. And then I, for a time, can have power over spirits through the goddess. It's not me. It's not Pythian Priestess. It is her. So then I am holding a knife. Now it is a crystal knife because I can't bring knives onto airplanes. That would get me into a lot of trouble. But there is a reason that I do this. We're going to use this one because this looks cool. I basically am threatening Patrick, right? So I'm holding a knife at him, being like, hey, you are going to listen to me. And if you don't, you're going to suffer. I'm going to throw you into the pits of hell. Like you're going to have a bad time. So that's why I hold the knife. And then there are certain times where my hand does get tired. This session, guys, I swear was like 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. It was so long. I'm standing on my feet. And there are times where I'm like, wow, I was so blown away by this session. And it was an incredible session, probably one of the best ones I've ever conducted. So now that the board is ready, we're all protected, we're all safe. We are then going to summon the spirit into the Solomonic triangle. This is called the Seal of Solomon. This is like a spirit trap. And that's what it does. It is supposed to keep spirits contained for a time. So this will go right here on the black part of it. And then I light a candle. And this candle is for the goddess. It represents her light. It represents her protection, all that good stuff. Now that I have set everything up, I'm going to present an offering. And a lot of you ask, why do I give Patrick incense and water and all this stuff? And the answer is because spirits are transactional. Sometimes they don't want to talk to you. You have to remember that spirits are just dead people without bodies. And sometimes people are jerks. So they need to be incentivized, which is why I offer incense. So now that this is all set up, great, awesome, time to invoke the spirit. So let's bring Patrick in. And Patrick will sit right on top of the sigil and the black circle. There he is. We'll make him a little bit smaller so we can see. So there's Patrick. So how does Patrick, who's over here in this triangle, how does he get over to the triangle planchette over here? I don't actually have a picture of that planchette. So here's the triangle planchette. And then we will add to this a little circle representing the crystal inside. So we'll make this circle white. Great. So now we have two almost identical triangles. And so here's our planchette that Sam and Colby are using. So how does the spirit who's over here in this circle get into this circle? It's through the triangles and the crystals. So I explained this in the video, but I guess a lot of people didn't understand. So basically what I'm doing is I am allowing the spirit to basically take its arm, let's say, and put itself into the crystal that Sam and Colby have. It looks like this, basically. It's a disembodied arm. It's kind of scary, but you get the idea. That's how it works. Like, the spirit could become unruly. He could decide that he doesn't want to play games anymore. He doesn't want to talk, which is what happened. His offering went out at one point, and he wouldn't talk to us until we got another offering for him. And then at one point, I don't know how to explain this to you guys. You don't have to believe me, but I just knew he wanted water. He asked for water. So I asked Sketch to go get some water. So we gave him a water bottle. And then later, this part did not make it into the final cut, but we asked him if he wanted anything. And I swear he wrote sweet out on the board, SWET, sweet. So we gave him an Oreo. That's all we had. We just had Oreos. I was like, just give him a pack of sugar. And usually I actually keep sugar packets and salt packets in my ritual bag. I think this is pretty common among spirits. Like they really do want sugar. And I think it's because like sugar on the physical plane makes us move very quickly. It gives us like a boost of energy. I think that's also why spirits like sugar in the afterlife. That's just my gnosis, take it or leave it for what it is. But that's how the spirit board works. So Playwright wants to know, what is the rug with all of those sigils and symbols? Where did I get it? And what does it mean? So that came from the Enochian Antiquarian. And I'm not going to speak too much about that. There's some occult stuff that I'm not supposed to share, but that is where I get it from. And you also asked Playwright, what were the symbols that I was drawing when Patrick was low energy? What I was doing is I was creating what's called a fire pentagram. So I'm bringing the celestial fire, because the heavens are made of fire, down through me, through the knife, into the planchette. So when I have the knife, you see me creating a circle that's a container for the energy. And then I draw the fire pentagram and I push it down with the knife. The reason why I use the dagger, the knife, or athame is because it's a directional power force. Basically, I'm creating a laser beam of energy. You can also do this with your fingers. So create the container, bring in the energy, the elemental fire, and I push it down. That's what I was doing. I don't know how I knew how to do that. It was truly just intuition. And I was just as surprised as Sam and Colby when it worked. I was like, oh, wow, this works. So Alex has a couple of questions. What incense was offered and what makes it an offering? The incense that I use is frankincense. Frankincense is a resin that is a solar resin that's attributed to my goddess Isis. It's also an exorcism resin, so it's an extra layer of protection as well. In ancient times, incense smoke was thought to bring up the energies or prayers to the heavens, which is why I offer it. It's just a very traditional offering. And lastly, why was the upstairs egregor possible demon scared of me? It said it was bad luck, and I just laughed. I thought that was so funny because it knows that I have the power to dismantle it. Now, I would not do that. I would not do that without at least 2 other magicians or occultists with me because it's so big, it's so strong, it's so heavy that it it would just be very reckless of me to try to remove that without extra help. The egregore can see the power of the goddess within me, and that's scary to it because it knows I have the power to remove it. That's why I think it was scared of me. Also, some people pointed out that I was laughing and they thought that was kind of strange, but I don't know. I think it's funny. I think spirit communication can be very funny. Ingrid wants to know what my first impression of Patrick was before we started filming. My impression of Patrick was transactional. I was like, "Oh, this spirit, he's not gonna talk to us unless, like, we're giving him stuff." He was very chatty, though. I will say he was chatty, and that surprised me how much he did want to chat. He's older. I've noticed that spirits that are over, like, 100 plus years old, they generally move a lot slower, and so I was like, "Oh, we're gonna need to, like, really amp it up," which is why I was like, "I'm gonna try this thing where I'm gonna give him some extra celestial fire energy. Let's see if it works." And I thought it was very cool to see at the end when we asked whether or not we should like him, and he said no. And that just like solidified for me, like, no, he's not lying. He knows he did wrong. He knows he was not a good person when he was alive. So a lot of people want to know whether or not they can use a spirit board. And I don't recommend it. I'm just going to say, I don't recommend it. It's a lot of energy and It's it's not safe. Even with all the safeguards that I showed you, it's still not safe. This is not a game. This is a magical procedure. So I actually reached out to one of my occult friends named Marco Visconti. You may recognize that name from another Sam and Colby video when they were at the Pendle Hill House. And I said, "Hey, Marco, I just wanted your opinion on something before I explain this to the masses." In my esoteric training, I was taught that you are required to be initiated before you can command spirits to do things, because that's what I'm doing. I'm commanding spirits. I am putting them places. I'm telling them to do certain things. I'm binding them. And so I wanted to ask Marco, like, what do you think? And he had a really great response. The concept of spiritual authority is paramount in any tradition that includes conjuring practices. This usually comes from formal initiation into this or that tradition, assuming that the tradition is genuine. But it could also be a byproduct of someone's self initiation through rigorous work, such as undertaking the Abramelin operation or the full scope of the conjuration on the Abertel. So, as one becomes initiated, I would say that it requires a lot of aspiration and dedication. And it's not achieved solely by showing up at this or that lodge or temple, signing a form, and going through the ritual. That's the start of what I call formal initiation, and is not dissimilar from joining a fraternity or sorority. It's step one. True initiation and spiritual authority comes from understanding and applying the lessons from the formal initiation, as well as tending to a properly built and maintained body of light. So, I would not recommend using a spirit board or creating one unless you are going to be very diligent and very disciplined in your magical work. Showing up and just say, "Spirit, do this," they're probably going to laugh at you and not listen to you because you have not created that body of light. You have not created the spiritual authority within you. I do believe that self initiation is possible. I'm not self initiated. I was initiated by a society, but there are ways to do it. But it's not as easy as just walking through the ritual and saying, "All done. I am a priestess now." That's not how it works. It takes a lot of aspiration and a lot of dedication and a lot of work in order to do this kind of magic. So thanks, Marco, so much for helping me explain that. I am so grateful to have such an amazing community. For all of you who submitted questions, thank you so much. I hope I answered them. And thank you to everyone who enjoys seeing me on Sam and Colby. It means a lot. And if you'd like to see more of me, please let the guys know. I also want to let you know that I have a new show that's come out called Exploring Haunted America. This is a documentary series that I made with Harrow House Films, and it bridges investigation and mysticism. I am not just ghost hunting, I am doing spiritual work within these haunted places. I've never seen anybody do this, and I am so blessed that I was able to sometimes help spirits and sometimes I get hurt as well. I hope that you enjoy it. And if you would like to check out Exploring Haunted America, go to my YouTube page and go down to the playlist Exploring Haunted America and let me know what you think. Did you enjoy the series? Do you like watching me do spiritual work in these haunted places? And for anyone who is looking for services such as tarot readings or spells, you can go to my website, pythianpriestess.com, and you can purchase one of those. And if you would like to become my student and learn from me, you can do that by going to pythianmysteryschool.com/apply. I would love to teach you. And until next time, mystics, stay magical.